DC Universe Presents number 6, written by Dan DiDio and Jerry Ordway, art by Jerry Ordway, aka the first part of the Challengers of the Unknown section of this book. Basically, we just leave off on a, hey, what are we even doing here? What even is this? And apparently, according to this, Daily Planet half article thing going on, there's a reality show that's basically like Survivor called Challengers, where they go to these extreme places and they just do stuff. And this season it's taking place in the Himalayas. But apparently last season was sagging in the ratings, and so this season has D-list talent that nobody's ever heard of, aka they're unknowns. Wink, wink. But yeah, we see the producer is June Robbins. She's up in the cockpit of this plane that's flying through this blizzard, and things are a little bit shaky, but they're doing all right. Her boyfriend or husband or something like that is named Ace. He's up in the cockpit along with a co-pilot. Again, there's 7 characters all introduced rapid fire here. I don't quite have all their names recognized yet, but I will get there. I'll say the ones that I can remember. So she goes back and she checks on all the talent in the back of the plane. We get a girl named Brenda, who's just kind of like a Twitter star, I guess. I don't know how best to describe her. I don't think she's done anything. She just gets in front of she just looks pretty. We get this perverted guy who is a redhead. I don't think they even give his name yet. And we get this other guy named Rocky. And there's one guy named Kawa who has a camera, and he's just recording for his 4 million followers on Flutter. So whatever. Anyway, she goes up and she talks to a guy who I guess is a consultant or something for the series. His name is Clay. And she's like, hey, are you sure we should come to the Himalayas? This doesn't feel right. And he's like, no, this is definitely the right place and the right time. I have this feeling. And so Kawa is poking his camera where it doesn't belong, and someone suggests, hey, how about you go up into the cockpit and join them in there instead of bothering us? So Kawa goes up. He tries talking to the pilots, but the light on the camera blinds them. So he goes and turns it off. But as soon as he does, this giant face appears in the cockpit window, and then it disappears, and they're about to crash into a mountain. And so everyone oh, get your seatbelts, everyone, what's going on? And then just boom, giant crash in the mountain. June starts waking up and she sees Ace standing over her, but he's missing half his face and he looks very demonic, and he's chasing after her with a knife. And she punches him out, and it's just oh no, this must be some sort of nightmare. But Ace is just oh, can't you see? I'm here for a higher calling. Don't you understand? Everyone was there for a reason except for me. And so he plunges the knife into her chest. Everyone else is tied up on the walls. And as she screams no, she wakes up in some sort of Asian garb. And a man is standing over saying, oh, hello, hi, you've been through a terrible ordeal. We're caring for your people. But, yeah, no, you're fine. And she's like, oh, I need to find Ace. And he's like, oh, you mean the blonde one? Yeah, no, he's not one of yours, therefore he's not here. He's like, what do you mean he's not one of us? He was clearly in the plane with us. But then she gets a walk and talk with this guy, and apparently this place is Nanda Parbat, a.k.a., I believe they say, the place that is the, home of worship for Ramakrishna, I believe. I don't know. Regardless, he tells her that Ace is dead and that she's not, he's not coming in. But immediately June sees Clay trying to talk with one of the people there about this talisman with this spiral symbol on it. And apparently he's been called out by this symbol saying oh, it talked to me and it's been guiding me and guiding all of the choices regarding this show. Everyone involved was handpicked because of this little talisman guiding me. And she's like, okay, you're crazy. And everyone else is coming to, and everyone's like, oh man, we're all here for some reason. What's going on? There must be a scientific reason for this, blah, blah, blah. But they're all brought into a hall to basically be talked to by this main guy. And the redhead is just the biggest dick. And I still don't know what his name is. But regardless, he's like, oh man, this must be punked. Punked. this must be all be a prank. And then they're like, oh, I can't believe you fell for this whole ancient Chinese hidden in the Himalayas town thing. But yeah, they're basically just trying to figure out what's going on. But they're drinking and they're talking to each other, just trying to get some answers as to like what do they remember, if they remember anything about how they got here. But nobody can seem to recall how they got here. And as they're drinking this wine, they all pass out. The wine has been drugged. They literally flat out say that's what happens. And they wake up next to the plane that is crashing the mountains. They're back in their normal, like, snowsuit gear, which they weren't in before, mind you. And Clay's freaking out. He's like, no, I came so far to ask about this talisman. But everyone else is just like, okay, we need to figure out what we're doing now. This is like the survival thing we were training for anyway. So let's go to the plane. Let's see what we can get supplies-wise out of it. One guy's trying to get like the GPS kicking. Other people are trying to get all like the first aid kits or whatever. But they get all their stuff out and they start prepping for it. Meanwhile, Clay is just like, nope, I'm going to deal with this talisman thing. But as they are checking out the plane, they realize that it feels like it's covered in enough ice that it's been here for weeks instead of like the hours that it feels like to them. So clearly something's going on. But before they have time to think about it, they see a helicopter flying overhead and they realize the search team has found them. So they got to climb up to it and like get to a place where it can land. So they start scaling up this mountain, but the rock slide almost pushes them down. And as they get up to the top and the mountain starts collapsing, it turns out that it actually wasn't a mountain. It was this giant, the best I can describe it is a mix between an axolotl and a sloth made of ice. Take that for what you will, but it has this really long prehensile tongue. And Clay sees that the talisman is glowing again as they approach the helicopter. Helicopter, like, it landed, it's on fire because of something that happened. But like a hole is punched through the windshield and the pilot is unconscious. But Clay sees the talisman is glowing. He turns it around at the beast and it just fires off this huge blast. And it's just like, okay, all right. Does anyone have any idea what's going on anymore? And June is grabbed up by the beast's tongue and everyone's pulled up into the helicopter. They're like, all right, maybe we can try to get close to her and see if we can grab her. But then Clay realizes, like, no, it wants this amulet. We only have one shot. So Clay jumps out of the plane, lands on the beast's tongue, stabs it with the amulet. It ends up throwing June away so that it can focus on Clay. Clay throws the amulet to June and was just like, protect this thing with your life. For God's sakes, find out what this is all about. And June's like, I'm not leaving you, Clay. But then, Clay's eaten. And the beast just, he's happy to have eaten. And so June's like, all right. So Clay just sacrificed himself to protect the stone. The fate of the world rests in our hands. I don't know where they came from that. I think it was something that one of the Nanda Parbat guys says. But they're like, all right, this plane or this helicopter's kicking, but it doesn't have a lot of gas. We don't have very far. So let's see how far we can get. And they're like, all right, let's make the most of our time. And then there's just one panel at the end of Ace crawling out of what appears to be a well made of skulls. Yep, sure, whatever. This book was very confusing. Like, for a part one where you're introducing a team that is not, like, Justice League affiliated, like, this is its completely separate thing, I should know exactly what's going on. And I frankly don't. I don't know many, if any, of these characters' names. If you know you're getting a certain number of issues, then fine, you can write for that. But it does not feel like a good introduction in the first place. So overall, I got to give this one like a 5. And that's pretty generous if I'm being honest. The only reason I'm being even that high with it is because I do think there are some cool concepts that could be going on here. It's a very, very broad story it's telling. It's not focused on like, okay, there's a specific villain. Like, we can do a lot with this. So I'm into it for the potential it has. But in terms of what it's actually doing so far, it's confusing, and I'm not sure what the hell is going on.